All right, let's talk about week two, which was Chelsea's HOH. And of course, I have to start it again talking about another explosive moment that happened with the one and only Angela. And it all started when she saw T-Core, Chelsea, Cedric, and Cam just hanging out outside by the hammock and went over to Quinn and was just like, that's the group, in an attempt to build something with Quinn. And Quinn being aligned with every single one of them that was out there, he told T-Core, T-Core told Cedric, Cedric told Chelsea, the whole game of telephone was played, and Chelsea eventually confronted Angela about it to get an understanding on why she would say that, because in Quinn's eyes, she was saying it because they're the people that they have to look out for and try to get out of the house. And then that led to Angela confronting Quinn about everything, and T-Core ended up being there as someone who is aligned with Quinn, just like in a having his back type of a situation. And when Quinn explained how he interpreted Angela's phrase, with T-Core there trying to clear up that misunderstanding, T-Core then tries to explain to Angela that the optics of her saying that about that specific group of black people and people of color, how that could be perceived. And before she can even fully explain that thought, Angela just went off into her crying and defensive mode, and T-Core walked away because who wants to be in that situation and try and explain something to someone who is just being completely defensive. And of course, Angela's all scared because she thinks people are going to see her as racist, and she doesn't think that way. And then we got that whole moment with her grabbing Cedric by the shoulders and screaming that she loves him and all the other black people of color in the house, and him giving her a hug. And then after all of that settled, Angela apologized to T-Core, and T-Core accepted the apology and said that all is forgiven. And all of that was unnecessarily, in my opinion, blocked from the live feeds. So what's my opinion on all this? I first want to state, and I already tweeted this, but I just want to say it again, that because all of this was blocked from the feeds, production had full control of this narrative. And I went back and I rewatched this part of the episode, and the first thing that we see of Angela giving her like reasoning as to why she said that's the group was in the DR. And she said that she was pointing out to Quinn that that's the group that they should be working with, which is not what she said at all until in the episode when we saw it in the DR. And then after they showed us the conversation that she had with Chelsea, and she said the same thing. Now, we don't know what came first, the DR or the conversation with Chelsea. So do with that information as you will, but I choose to just believe that production has full control of this narrative and will never really know the truth as to why Angela really said that's the group. I'm not trying to put anything on her. I don't know her as a person. I'm just saying we didn't see any of this on the live feeds. So whatever narrative the show wanted to use for this, they could use it. So here's what I think. Angela saying that's the group and leaving it at that leaves so much for interpretation. And it is logical for Quinn to hear Angela, a person who is constantly blowing up people's games, say something like that and think she's trying to do the same thing. And so it's understandable why he would think that she was saying that they're a group that they need to look out for and that they need to get them out of the house because they're targets and they are competition to them. All Quinn really had to do was pull Angela aside privately after she said that to him to get clarification on what she meant. But we know, and he knows, that he took the messy route, and that's why he told T-Core, and he was trying to stir up some stuff, and that's exactly what happened. So yeah, I think that they were both wrong in this situation. Angela should have been more clear with her words, and Quinn should have not just assumed what that meant, even though it's very logical what he assumed. He shouldn't have just assumed it because what she said was so vague, and waited to tell someone until he knew exactly what it meant. But that's not how Quinn is playing this game, which is a great segue into what I want to talk about next. And that's Quinn and all of his messiness, which he is fully self aware of in this game. Like, he knows that he has alliances with pretty much everyone, and that he talks a lot, and that he wants to stir up some mess and does. Right now, all of that hasn't been much of an issue for him, but I think that moving forward, he needs to start being smarter about this and just making better decisions and not talking so much and being more strategic about when he talks a lot and when he's being messy. And once all of the like main targets that are Kenny and Angela, once they get out of the house, people are really going to start drawing lines in the sand and solidifying things more and like really ramping up their gameplay. And with that, he's going to have to pick a side, and people are probably going to start talking to each other more. And if he just continues on the behavior that he's doing right now in this way, there is a like, I think there's a really strong possibility that people are just going to get fed up with him, and that's going to put more of a target on his back, and everyone's just going to team up to get him out of the house. There are some people that I think that we really need to keep our eyes on as we watch moving forward, and that's Chemo, T-Core, Rubina, and Brooklyn. Now, this pair of pairs, they have been both playing a good social game, and they have been very strategic as of now. And I think that they may be flying under the radar, not because they're floaters, but because they're of their gameplay. Um, Everyone else has kind of been in a lot, like maybe as aside like Cam and maybe even Cedric a little bit, but people like Angela and Kenny, they're always going to be ones that are going to go up on the block. People are always talking about MJ and Leah and like the possibility of putting them up on the block. Like, all of these people have like these very obvious targets on their back, and so these four are able to kind of just sit back and chill, but they're not being floaters because they're still strategizing. Honestly, out of the four, I think that T-Core is probably the one that you need to most look at, because she has a lot of sway. She played in that in the past HOH in which Chelsie won, but I believe it was down to Chelsie, T-Core, and Leah. So she was very close to winning that competition, and that's the only one she was able to play in this week. I also think that she's done some of the better strategizing out of all of the house guests. She had like, people listen to her, and I think that they want to work with her. They all like her, but they don't really they're not putting a huge target on her back. So I think she's in a really good position, and I think that she could go far, and she's many people's favorite, including mine. There was, I think, one real alliance that came out of this week, which is the Visionaries, which is Joseph, Quinn, T-Core, and Chemo. And I'm saying that it's the real one because we all know that Quinn is in every alliance with everyone, but this is the only one that he says that he's being truthful with. So this is the real one to me that came out of this week. Just a few more things. Kenny is starting to get on mine and just pretty much everyone else's nerves, because he is constantly talking about how much he wants to go home and how much he doesn't want to be here, and he doesn't think the money is worth leaving his family. And it's extremely frustrating to constantly hear him say this and to offer himself up on the block. I mean, this week he was on the block and he won veto, which is extremely frustrating because there were people on the block that wanted to win because they wanted to stay, like Lisa and Angela. And if he wanted to go home so bad, then he shouldn't have tried to win. And he did anyway. And he was all hype and he was all pumped to stay. And then shortly after, he was talking to Chelsie about how the money is probably not worth it. It is so frustrating, and not just to everyone who's watching, but to the house guests. Like, they had a whole conversation one night about how it was just disrespectful to everyone who's in the house, everyone who auditioned and didn't make it, the entire crew and production, like Brooklyn said, like all of that, that it is just disrespectful to pretty much everyone involved in the show. That he is here and he is in the house and he's constantly talking about going home. We even saw on Thursday that he was reading the rules, and everyone thinks that he's probably trying to figure out how he can self evict, if he can still get the stipend that they get when they're in the house if he self evicts, and all of that. Like, he keeps saying that he wants to go home. And of course, none of this is getting shown on the actual episodes. In the episodes, he seems like someone who is there, ready to fight, very excited to be in the game and to play the game. And I wouldn't be surprised if people start to think that production is telling him not to self evict and he's just trying to get himself evicted, so he doesn't have to leave on his own accord. But, at this point, he needs to just go because it's getting annoying. And a lot of people think that this is just a strategy and that every week he's going to get on the block, but then there's going to be a bigger target next to him and then they won't send him home. But, like, that's not a good strategy to me either. Like, if he gets far, like say he gets to final two and he has to give a speech on why he should win the game, like, and all he has to show for it is that every week he said he wanted to go home, but no one ever voted him out. Like, you're not gonna win. Like, I wouldn't vote for that. So yeah, Kenny's gotta go. And the last thing before we move into spoilers is our Tucker watch. Now, this week Tucker offered himself up as a renom because Kenny won the veto and took himself off the block, and so Tucker went up as a renom. It got a little dicey. Some people were saying maybe he should go home, but he won the AI arena like in a landslide. It wasn't even close, and he didn't go home. But now people have seen him compete and know that he is a competitor and that he can do these puzzles, and he looks like someone who could do well in physical comps too. So he may have put more of a target on his back. So we will continue to watch that. He also said he's offering again to go up as a pawn on the block. So we will keep watching and seeing when, well, how far he makes it in this game. And now we are going to move into spoilers. So if you don't want to know who won HOH, you don't want to know anything after that, please leave now. But the new HOH is Cedric. And it's really interesting that the two people who got the downgrades in the beginning of the game have now won HOH. Now, as I am filming this, it is about 1:30 BB time Friday, and nominations have not happened yet. Like, I have the live feeds up right in the corner, and they have not gone away for the nominations yet, but it's looking like Kenny and Angela will be on the block again. That third nominee is always the one that's giving people trouble. Cedric is saying that he doesn't want any blood on his hands, but he's thinking about putting up MJ. And now he knows about MJ's power. At first, she was kind of being iffy about what it all means and how it's America's voting in the renom. But she eventually told him the entire truth and how the entire power works. He was initially talking about putting up Leah or Rubina. Then MJ got in the mix to flesh out the power. I don't think Quinn is going to use his power to overtake this HOH, so we don't have to worry about that. Personally, I think he should probably put up MJ or Leah, so the power can get used because she'll take herself off the block. I'm curious if he puts up Leah, if MJ will use it on her, and if that's the case, can she be a part of the America's vote for the person to go up as Renom? That is what I'm curious about. So yeah, that is what I'm looking forward to seeing. I'm going to quickly wrap this up because there's some live feeds that I gotta watch and I gotta catch up on what I missed while I was filming this. So as always, leave your thoughts in the comments and I will see you next week. And also, if you are not following me on Twitter, you should. I'll put my handle somewhere. But I live tweet during all of the episodes, so you should be following me there. All right, bye.